Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our channel. Thanks for tuning in. This will be, inshallah ta'ala, the final installment of our marriage series. After this, we're going to have a quick Q&A. You guys can put in the comment section if you want to do like a live Q&A, or
just send in your questions.
Just send in questions, whichever you would prefer. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the relations between a husband and a wife and the nature of polygamy. Inshallah ta'ala.
Inshallah ta'ala. So to begin, we're going to start talking about the relationship between a husband and a wife. And that is that they need to live together in peace and harmony and be each other's, the person that the person wants to go home to after a long day at work.
Yeah, there should be tranquility in the house, always.
While both partners, husband and wife, while both partners fulfill each other's obligations towards their spouse. So the husband will, pay for the wife's expenses, and the wife will obey the husband and everything that is lawful except for what is unlawful. Because at the end of the day, there's no obedience to the creation before the creator.
So, we should do everything that we're supposed to do with a smile and with a cheerful disposition and not take it as a burden, or just go through the motions without any kind of spirit in anything. All this stuff comes very naturally, of course, for relationships, so it's not really
a burden.
It's not a burden or any problem like that. So, as a bit of an introduction to polygamy before we go into the fiqh, women have a massive advantage over men when it comes to the marriage. So, a woman has an enormous pool that she can choose her husband from. She can choose any man, whether he is married or unmarried. She can marry anyone that she wants. She's not restricted. As long as the man doesn't already have 4 wives, she can choose anyone. That's right. Now the man is only allowed to choose a woman who's not married. So a man is restricted in the potential wives, potential brides that she can choose from. So this is the way that we understand polygamy. A woman has more choice than a man has. She can look and say, oh, I like how he treats his wives, so she can decide to marry such and such a person, or she can decide to marry anyone that she wants. But the man can't make the same decision with a woman and say, wow, she treats her husband so well, and and then decide to marry this woman. So now, inshallah, Aisha will tell us a little bit about some of the fiqh.
Okay. So the first thing is leaving the house. So a man can permit his wife/wives to leave the house. Like, he can let them, go inside the city, but they cannot leave the city limits. If a man tell his wives, you can go out of state and go to the city and go visit someone, then both parties will be sinful for allowing this to happen.
A common example today would be allowing your daughter or something like this to go out of state for college or to travel somewhere, unless she's accompanied by a mahram. That's expressly forbidden, and both people would be sinful in that situation because the father or the husband has absolutely no right and no authority to grant her permission for something like that.
And the next one is, with regards to housing, a man can house his wife/wives in one home as long as they all agree to do so. And if they don't agree to do so, then it's upon the man to go, provide them each with their own quarters. It is described as a room that a person can sleep in, make dinner in, and use the restroom in. So nowadays, you will consider something like a studio apartment where it's just one room. You have the bed, the kitchen, and then a little area to go use the bathroom. That is what is the minimum for a man to provide for his wife with.
Yes, if she were to be requesting housing, then that would be what he would fulfill.
Yes.
Or more than that, if she is of the status has that, and he's financially capable of providing.
And we talk about that in the previous parts. I think it was the part right before this part too.
Yeah, finances.
Finances, yes. She's being ridiculous.
They're all over the place. Go on.
Anyways, so like, for example, since we are talking about the houses, if a man has 2 wives, and you know he has some kind of money, then it's his responsibility, if the wife does not want him to share a home, is to provide them each with their own home. So you can consider something like a duplex. He can put both wives, you know, near each other, but not in the same room, not in the same bite, and that is permissible.
If we take a sunnah directly from the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we find that attached to the mosque there was a small room for each one of his wives. So each house was really just a room that was attached to the complex of the masjid. Sweetie. Wherein there was a small straw mat where they would sleep, and would be a small area to start a fire where she would cook. Nowadays, of course, it'd probably be a mattress, not a mat, and it'd probably be a stove, not a little fire pit, you know? But the concept is still exactly the same.
So now my husband will talk to you about
travel. So in the case where a man is going to travel, he's going to give equal time to his wives. Like, let's say, for example, well, I didn't quite say that right, but let me explain it. So if I were to take Aisha with me traveling, I were to just decide I like her the best, I'm going to take her traveling with me. But then I left my second wife, Zainab, and she was at home. Then when I came back, I would have to spend equal time with Zainab. And it would be sinful for me to do this. If, however, I were to draw lots, and they both draw a stick, and whoever gets the shortest stick gets to come, and then Aisha draws the shortest stick, I can bring her with me, and I don't have to make up the time with Zainab. Now, in the case where I'm not traveling and I'm just home, one more thing to add, I don't have to take one if I don't want to. If I want to travel alone, I can choose to do so. And in the case where I'm home, I would spend equal time with each one on a rotation. So one turn and then the next turn, one turn and then the next turn. So it can be a minimum of 1 day, 24 hours, and then a maximum of 3 days. Now, it can be longer if the wives agree to it, but my right to decide is only going to be for 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days. I can't decide to stay a month with one and then a month with the other. But if the wives agree to it, like, for example, they live in different cities or different areas, and then that's what they decide, then there's no sin on anyone for that. And Allah knows best. So, in the case where a woman decides to give up her turn, one of the wives, she doesn't get to assign it forcibly to a certain other wife. Like if there was 3 wives, for example, and one gave up her turn, she can't say that, oh, this turn is going to go to so-and-so. The husband is allowed to decide who he wants to give the turn to, and he can change his mind and give it to one and then the other and back and forth. So, and then when she does want to take back her turn, she can take back her turn and she joins back in the rotation. She doesn't get to claim back any days that she missed.
And with regards to when the husband does take a wife, after he's married once and he got married to another person, with regards to the wives, when the husband takes another wife, then he will need to know how to split the turns. And if the second wife is like non-virgin, she was never married before, then he stays with her for 7 days in the beginning. And he does not need to make up his time with his previous wife. But in the case, he marries someone that is a divorcee, and she wants him to spend 7 days with her, then he needs to make up the time for the remaining time, because he's allowed to spend 3 days and 3 nights with her. So he will need to make up the remaining 4 days out of the 7 days with the other wife. But if the husband chooses to stay with the wife on his own will, then he does not need to make up for the time he spent with the new wife.
And the reason for this is because this is the right of the bride to have these days. So that's why it works like that.
So now we're going to talk about, when things went from sweet to sour. For example, the husband got another wife, and now things in the marriage are starting to go downhill.
Like the wife is...
It's just a scenario, not necessarily that it will happen all the time. It's just a scenario.
So, and one reason I'm hesitant to speak about a lot of these topics is because I don't want it to be like a man speaking to women, telling them do this, do that, and the third, and all of that. So instead of me saying do this, that, and the third, and phrasing it in a way that might not be, flattering, then I've been quiet for a lot of it, and Aisha's kind of been explaining some things, but she wants me to mention this, but I'll just mention the first, inshallah, if she'll allow me to, is the, so there's 3 steps, 4 steps really, which is given in the Quran, and this is the way that a husband is supposed to react when his wife is
not listening,
or, So it comes from the place of concern and the place of love, where if you're doing something that's very harmful to yourself, you're harming your soul with your actions, because the only thing that we are is our actions. So if the wife is hurting herself with her actions by being disobedient or letting her tongue loose and saying all kinds of things or something like that, then the husband is advised to speak to the wife, admonish her and explain to her, this is a sin, this is an obligation, this is my advice to you, fear Allah, do this.
And all of this is under the category of,
commanding the good and forbidding the evil.
And living well with your family and taking care of their needs.
Of course, as Allah says in the Quran, save yourselves and your family from the fire, the fuel of which is people and rocks. So we try to save our family members and give them the best situation. So this is what you're supposed to do. Now, in the case where she doesn't respond to this, and you could say anything from the ulama in the books of knowledge give many different examples. You should say something like fear Allah, or obedience is a religious obligation, or
this is my right as a husband, as your husband, you have to listen to me.
Mm-hmm. Something like this. Then
so basically you're reminding her of her duties, what she's supposed to do, and basically telling her that she's sinning.
Yes, point it out. And because Allah says in the Quran that indeed the believers benefit from reminders. Mm-hmm. So we're supposed to remind one another. Now, if she doesn't respond, then you continue to the second step. Some ulama say that it has to be multiple instances. Like the first instance, you do the first response and then done. And then the second instance, you do the second response and then done. While other ulama say you go through all of them, even in one step, even in one instance where you do the first step, she doesn't respond, you do the second step, she doesn't respond. So Allah knows best, but there's a khilaf about that.
And you will act like how you usually act. You're not going to just fluster the lady with all kind of commands. You will just start with the process.
And if you do it without hikmah, if you were to approach it, for example, with something in your heart, one of the diseases of the heart, then this is good. Some of the scholars comment that this is actually impermissible. You have to approach it from the proper niyyah. You have to have the right purpose. You have to have the right intention. So the first step is explained satisfactorily, inshallah. The second step you'll proceed is separating from the wife. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would even there was a time in Medina when everyone thought that he had divorced his wives because he had separated from all of them for a month or so. And this is something which is permissible. You will separate from your wife. You can either move out entirely, or the ulama recommend to stay in the house, but simply,
silent treatment.
Yeah, sure. Give it a silent treatment, and if instead of sleeping right next to each other, you separate from sleeping with each other, where perhaps you're sleeping on the floor, or maybe on another bed or blow-up mattress or something in the same room. because it should move her heart. She should feel like, why is my husband the one who loves me the most, the one who's with me the most?
It's on the floor.
Is on the floor rather than even being with me. He prefers to sleep on the floor so what's wrong? It should move her heart. And this is the purpose of the second step.
And if that doesn't work, he's trying and she's trying in their own way and it doesn't work, then he has the right to go towards disciplinary acts. It won't be like he's going for a belt and lashing her black and blue. It will be that he takes a miswak and just gently give her a tap.
A miswak is a very small twig, this like the size of a pinky, that's used for brushing the teeth.
So this lash isn't really, like how you would, like back in my day, if I got a spelling word wrong, I would get a whole wooden stick in the palms of my hand. But it's not like that. It's more so to like wake her up and, get a reaction from her, like shake her up a little bit. Because, for example, with my son, all I have to do is give him a slight tap. I don't even have to make a sound, just naughty, and he freaks out and he rolls all over the floor.
Yeah.
It's like to give it a reaction like that. But if the guy feels, she seems pretty upset, and if I do this might turn really, really sour quick, then he should skip this step and go towards arbitration.
That's a part of the hikmah. Yeah. So it's supposed to be an expression of severe dissatisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fourth step is arbitration, where you call for a third party to come in and decide things. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did this as well. And he would always skip the third step. He never did that. But he called for arbitration, where there was a dispute with him and Aisha radiyallahu anha, where he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, who would you like to arbitrate for us? And she decided, I want my father to come. So it's a sunnah in the case of a problem like that to call for the woman's father for the arbitration, or anyone who you guys decide upon. And then Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, he came and was like, he came into the house, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Aisha, who would you like to go first? You or me? So look at the adab of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First, he's asking her, who do you want to arbitrate? And then he's asking her, who do you want to start? And then she said, radiyallahu anha, she said, you start, but you only tell the truth. Oh my goodness, look how feisty. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when he heard this, his hand came up. He was ready. How dare you speak like this? Hand come up, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam grabbed his hand and said, "Ya Abu Bakr, I brought you here." So he said something along the lines of, "I brought you here but not for this purpose," or something like this. So he was ashamed and he left. And Aisha forgave him. Forgave Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or reconciled. She reconciled. I should say, she reconciled with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's a nice story.
It is
about the fourth step, looking for arbitration or consultation.
And this is like a responsibility of the husband to follow these steps, because you can't really reach a solution, if two people are yelling at each other. And that's what my grandma told me too when I went to spend time with her with my husband. She sat me down in her room and she told me
the advice for the newlywed.
Yeah, she sat me down in her room and she told me, you two should never yell at each other unless there's a fire in the house.
I like that rule.
So yeah, this is part of trying to bring the harmony back in the home. You can't have two people shouting at each other and reach a solution, because no one will hear each other. So the husband has to take it upon himself to follow through with these steps. And hopefully if, they were doing the initial thing that we spoke about, living in kindness and everything like that, he would not need to go towards the second step or the third step or the fourth step. And inshallah, Allah, He knows best.
Yeah. So in the arbitration step, they have to do whatever the arbitrator decides.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case where that still doesn't resolve anything, then Allah says in the Quran that you part in goodness. So if it comes to a separation, you separate in goodness, and you don't say anything about your wife afterwards, your ex-wife. You don't say a thing about her. That's completely haram. You don't have anything except for a good opinion of her and a good things to say about her. This is absolutely, it's obligatory. It's incumbent upon you. Now, the law of other people might just only affect your outward actions, but you have to like it, right? You don't have to like paying taxes or something, or like the speed limit in a certain neighborhood. But when it comes to the laws that your Lord, your Maker, has put down, you have to like it inside your heart as well, or else you're a munafiq, or a kafir, you're a hypocrite, or a disbeliever, someone who's utterly ungrateful of Allah. So we have to like this in our own hearts. It has to be true and sincere. You have to actually have in your heart a good view and a good opinion of your ex-wife or your ex-husband, and in addition to having to treat them well, if it ever came to something like that. But of course, we should fear Allah, and we should try and always reconcile. 99% of the cases, I think, can be reconciled, and Allah knows best.
Inshallah. So yes, I think we covered everything for the marriage part of the series. Like, we wanted to keep it towards, living together in marriage, things that come about in a Muslim marriage. Not, so we don't want to go speaking about divorce yet. So we are wrapping the series with this.
She's either being loud where she's sad or being loud where she's happy.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap up the series with this. We all have the questions. You already got responses already. So if you want, you can comment down below your questions. We'll note it and reply in another video.
We've already got a few questions, but please, comment any questions that you have or send them to us.
Or just a comment, good feedback, we appreciate it as well. And if you liked for us to go live with this Q&A and actually interact with us, we'll be open to that as well.
Yeah, just vote down in the comment section.
Yes. Anyways, it was nice talking to you guys again. This is the end of the series. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.